Eventually you'll be able to work up to doing it without a balance aid.
What's up everybody? Coach Jason, Inside the Rack Fitness. In this video, I'm going to go over one of the most important and most overlooked aspects of training, and that is stability. If you want to instantly increase your strength, instantly add more muscle, lose more weight, be more athletic, then you really need to start focusing on your stability. Now, every modality of training needs to include all of these 5 aspects. It does not matter what your training goals are. Whether your goal is to lose weight, get stronger, build muscle, look good in a swimsuit, function better as a human being in daily life, it does not matter what your ultimate goals are. Your training should include all 5 of these aspects. These are in order of importance. The most important training aspect is mobility. If you don't have the ability to move, then you're not going to be able to reach your goals to your full potential. So if I can bench press full range of motion, I'm going to elicit more muscle. I'm going to burn more calories, which will help me lose weight. It'll help me put on more muscle. It'll help me build more strength. But if I can only move this far, then I'm not going to get those gains. This is hammered home on the internet 1,000 times over. There's plenty of information on mobility. The second most important aspect is stability. Now, this is hardly ever talked about anywhere, and I think it's because it's not sexy. Stability, you're using light weights, you're doing easy stuff, so it's not that sexy to talk about. So I think a lot of times it gets glossed over. The third most important thing is your training itself. Whatever you're doing to achieve your goal is your training, whether it's jogging on a treadmill, whether it's lifting weights, whether it's doing plyometrics, whether it's sport specific, so you're a basketball player, you're playing pickup games, things of that nature. The next important thing is recovery and nutrition. Now, recovery and nutrition kind of go hand in hand. Nutrition feeds into recovery, nutrition feeds into your training. So nutrition could kind of be included in training and recovery, but I'm going to put it as its own because it kind of depends on your goals and it depends on how you use it. Now, if these are in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Mobility. If you're already working out, you're probably already doing mobility work before you begin your workout. A general warm-up, foam rolling, myofascial release, things of that nature. And there are thousands upon thousands of videos and articles on the internet about mobility. Training, there's millions of articles and videos on the internet. Recovery and nutrition, once again, there's probably thousands of videos and articles written about these on the internet. But when it comes to stability, nobody talks about it. And it's the second most important aspect of your training. That's why I'm going to cover it in this video today.
So why do I have the top 3 in the order they're in? Mobility, stability, and then training. I just want to go to the gym and hop on the elliptical so I can lose some weight. Maybe I want to do a little bit of lifting so I can get a little bit stronger so my work is easier. Whatever the case may be, the number one thing you need to do when you start working out is make sure that you have the mobility to safely work out. If your muscles, tendons, and ligaments are tight and you go to do a full range of motion movement, you're going to start snapping stuff off the bone, get injured, and be done before you even start. So moving on to number 2, stability. Once we increase that range of motion through mobility, we have to be able to stabilize that range of motion. This, once again, is injury prevention. The more stability we have, the safer that we can do everything that we do, whether it's lift weights, whether it's run, jog, sport specific for the athletes out there. No matter what the case may be, stability plays a huge role in that. It's also huge for longevity. So your grandma walks with a walker. Why does she do that? There's two reasons. Number one, her hips are not strong enough and her hips are not stable enough to support her body weight. So if you want to live into your 80s and 90s and be able to walk without a cane or walker or pain, stability are hugely important. Training comes next because we want to mobilize, stabilize, then strengthen in those ranges of motion. And that's why they're in the order that they're in. Recovery and nutrition are the last two, because for a beginner lifter, early intermediate lifter, your recovery and your nutrition are not real vital factors in training outcomes. When you first start working out, as long as you're doing something, it's better than sitting on the couch eating potato chips. So you're going to see some gains. The recovery and nutrition become more a factor once you get into the intermediate stages of your lifting career. Once you start hitting your first plateau, that's when you need to start worrying about your recovery and your nutrition. So they're lower on the totem pole because they don't apply to everybody starting out.
Now the protocol we're going to implement consists of 3 different exercises. Now you can do these a few different ways. You can either do them as soon as you walk in the gym and you start your workout with these. You can do your general warm-up and then do these, is typically how I do it. You can also do it on off days as recovery work. These exercises work great for recovery work. I probably do them 5 days a week. You want to do them at least 3 days a week, and you can do them every single day because they're working tiny muscles. They don't elicit a lot of damage. It's really easy to recover from this. So there's also going to be progressions. I'm going to show you video of some of my clients doing the easier versions, and then I will demonstrate the harder versions of each of these 3 exercises. So let's get into the exercises.
So this exercise I call Fly, Flex, Superman. So what we're going to do is we're going to start face down on the mat. We want our chin pressed into the mat or the floor, but we want to be flat. We want our head in a neutral position. So she's going to lift her arms up behind her and hold it for 5 seconds. Then she's going to come up to a flex position, keeping her arms off of the mat, hold for 5 seconds, and then go into an overhead press or a Superman position for 5 seconds. And then cycle back down to the flex, holding 5 seconds, and then back down behind the back, 5 seconds, and then we're gonna rest. So you can just lay your hands down, and we're gonna sit here for 10 seconds. And then we're gonna repeat the process. So for the advanced version of this, we're gonna use a dumbbell, and we're also going to lift our chest and our legs up off of the ground. So we're also gonna be working the lumbar spine. So I'm gonna start in a relaxed position. I'm gonna flex everything, hold for 5, come up to the flex, hold for 5, into the Superman, flex, fly, and then relax. So this next exercise is called a bottom under press. So what you're going to do is start with a dumbbell, a really light dumbbell. So you want to grip the head of it with your hand. You're going to have your palm facing forward, elbow directly out in front of you at 90 degrees. From here she's going to press up overhead. So go ahead and press. And as you get to the top, you see how her arm rotated, which is the natural movement of your body. So now to come down, we have to rotate towards the middle and then bring it back down to the front. And we're going to do 5 to 10 reps of this. So go ahead. So that looks good. So we'll look at Fidel, come down in the front. So for the advanced version of the bottom under press, instead of a dumbbell, we're going to use a kettlebell. You're going to hold the horn of the kettlebell upside down. So this is going to force the stabilizers in your forearms to work as well. But it's going to be the same movement. In front of me at 90 degrees, press up overhead, turn in, come down. So this last one we're going to do is 3 different movements combined into one. So we're going to start off with a lunge, into an RDL, into a hip airplane. So if you need assistance with this, break it up into individual movements. Hang on to a rack if you have balance issues. It's best to do this barefoot so we can establish the stability of your feet that you need for movement to do the big 3 movements: squat, bench, or squat, deadlift, overhead press, anytime you're standing on your feet. So I'll show you the full version of it. So you're going to start off with a lunge. We're going to push off of this front leg right up into an RDL. And then from here, we're going to open at the hips into what's called a hip airplane. So when you do the hip airplane, we're not just turning our torso, we're actually pivoting at the hip. So the hip joint is actually pivoting. So it'll look like this. Pivot open, back closed, and then we're going to go right into a lunge. So if we need to break this down into movements, Patty's new to this. She kind of struggles with it. So we're going to do each one individually. So we'll start off with a lunge. She has bad knees, so she's actually going to do a reverse lunge instead of a forward lunge because it's easier on the knees. So I'm going to have her stand right up here.
Facing that way?
Yep. And then you're going to step backwards into your lunge. And if that's all the deeper you can go to start, that's all the deeper you can go. Come up. And we're just going to do 5 reps right there. So we would have her do 5 reps, switch to the other leg, do 5 reps. So we'll move on to the next movement, which is going to be the RDL. So from here, she's just going to stand on one foot, and she's going to reach across her body, touch the ground, and come up. Just stand on this leg. Stand on one leg. And then you're going to reach across with the opposite hand, touch the floor if you can, and then come back up. When you come up from this, you really want to squeeze the glute. This is really going to work a hinge movement and work the glutes. So do one more. So on one leg, she reaches down, touches the ground, flexes to come up. Now the last part, the hip airplane, we're actually going to have her hang onto the rack for balance so she doesn't fall over, as Fidel's doing in the background. So just hang onto the rack with your left hand, and then you're going to open at the hips. And then you'll do 5 to 10 reps at each of these. Every time you do this, try to do it without using the rack to help balance you, just so you can build upon that. Eventually you'll be able to work up to doing it without a balance aid, but when you start out, it's good to use the rack or a stick or something to help you with balance.